everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
Today, Brandon and I are going to tell you how we felt about the first couple of episodes of Muppets Now, the new series on Disney+. Brandon, it's been a few years now, 3 or 4 years, since the last attempt at a televised Muppet show. Now we've got one on streaming, and let's go ahead and chat a little bit about it, shall we? This show I was kind of looking forward to because it looked like it was kind of going back to Muppet formula to a degree, getting us back to, and now that I've seen it, it's definitely doing this, getting back to the kind of variety show format. Of course, like updated and more for modern audiences and making fun of the kinds of stuff that is most popular now, just like we were doing with variety shows in the 70s with the original Muppet Show. What we did a few years ago on ABC, The Muppets, I don't know if you ever saw that.
I did. I watched it.
Was and I didn't see the last few episodes of it. I fell off because I got kind of bored with it. But that show was kind of a parody of The Office. And so like with the Muppets, we've always done this where we'll kind of pick something that's really popular and in the zeitgeist and in television and do a big parody of it. But when I think of Muppets on TV, I'm always thinking variety show. I'm always thinking of clipped up segments.
Sure.
And I wanted to see it eventually finally get back to that. And now we've got that. So we'll talk about how well it's doing that. But immediately it's 50% of the way there for me, because I don't really care so much about like an ongoing narrative.
Sure.
With Muppets. I'm not saying that can't be done well necessarily.
Right, but they got movies for that.
When they get to make them.
Right.
Yeah, at the moment they don't. Sure. But you know, the original Muppet Show always had kind of a framework where there was something going on in the background. So there was kind of, you know, not necessarily like a traditional narrative story, not necessarily like a character arc or anything, but you'd have you know, Kermit working behind the scenes trying to keep the show together. Everything's kind of falling apart, and that would be kind of a through to keep everything together. You also always had one guest star that was in at least a couple of segments and was doing stuff behind the scenes. It's not going back to Muppet Show formula in that sense. It's got much more of a very loose framework. So if you've not seen this, the idea is you're basically just watching Muppet YouTube videos, and they're all strung together in just one like dump upload that Scooter's putting up. And so the framework is simply he's putting everything in a, like you just see his desktop, he's just screen sharing, and we're seeing what he's uploading, and he just takes all of the videos and puts them into an uploader, and then as he's uploading them, you're watching them. So the idea is that they've already been posted, but we're seeing them sort of kind of from his desktop, I guess.
Well, they've been made, but they like haven't been like it's kind of like a YouTube channel, right? Where you've got like all these different people who put their shows on for like this one channel type thing. And I had no idea before you mentioned this just the other day that this was happening.
That this was even happening.
I didn't. It was not even on my radar. I hadn't heard anything about the Muppets in a long time. The last thing I saw was that show on ABC, which, you know, I had hopes for that show and it fell flat. So,
oh, did you think so too?
I did think so too.
Because you were certainly more the audience for that than I was. Like, some of it was just, it just wasn't what I wanted. You know?
Honestly, it wasn't what I wanted from the Muppets either.
Oh, okay.
But the best joke that show had was the Tom Bergeron joke, where he got pushed from the episode.
Oh,
he shows up to do a thing and they had to boot him.
About that.
And he's like, really? Because I want to be doing stuff, like I can do stuff, and I was like, okay, that's Tom Bergeron for you.
I remember the guest star stuff being a lot of the best parts. Like, there's an episode where Lawrence Fishburne hates Kermit the Frog. Do you remember that? And that was great. Where he's like riding around on a lot in a scooter, like screaming at Kermit the Frog. That was fantastic. So I mean, that show definitely had its moments,
right?
But it had all the same.
Why it got canceled.
It had all the same problems. Yeah, and I just don't think there was an audience for it. And it's hard to keep the Muppets on a broadcast network anyway. So this is the right place for a thing like this, or it's one of the right places. I'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
Because my main point about this has to do with format and like the way streaming services and different formats are working now, but platforms. But Anyway, yeah, I think the biggest problem with that show was that not to talk too much about that, but was that it had a lot of the same problems as the sitcoms that it was making fun of that kept me from wanting to watch those in the first place. Like, I just didn't care about the like love triangles and drama behind the scenes and all of that stuff. Like they were making fun of that stuff, but at the same time, I don't want to say it was taking itself too seriously, but like it was doing that as much as it was making fun of it, and so like it was almost doing it too well, because I don't care for shows like The Office, so I didn't want to watch that. You know,
see, The Office,
and this is much more of what I'm looking for, I guess.
I was okay with The Office. I actually liked that show a fair bit. I just didn't see it translating to the Muppets.
Yeah, and that's why I thought you might have cared for that show.
Right? And I just didn't. Ultimately, it fell too flat for me. Just I felt that the Muppets were too stressed. That like legit stressed in that show, and you want the Muppets stressed to be light. You know, like Kermit the Frog waving his arms around. You know, he gets up. I mean, that's what Kermit does. He gets kind of upset, flustered at the rest of his piece. He's the ringmaster of this circus that is the Muppets.
Yeah, it was too heavy. Really,
it
for
really was.
And I think this is kind of maybe finding that balance a little bit better, or at least feels more like a traditional Muppets thing.
Well, at least the way it started, certainly, where they're like, are we already posting that? Like, we didn't even get to review it. Like,
yeah, but also fine. Just the general the general tone and general sense of comedy seems a lot more straightforward and going back to the well. I think.
Because they're all bringing their own personal thing to their own little shows that they're doing.
Yeah, and I think most of the characters are very in character in their nailing personalities, but we'll get more into that in a second. So this dropped last week. I was just going to watch the first episode and review it. I didn't know that Brandon was going to come over today, so thanks for hanging out with me and doing this video. And we didn't even realize the second episode had dropped, so we decided we better go ahead and watch them both, because I don't want to, be outdated and post a video saying, I wonder if certain trends will continue. Because, 2 does not a pattern make, but we've at least now seen, we're seeing a couple of, repeated segments and things, so I'm getting more of a sense with the second episode of what this is going to be like. And we would have, I think, probably, not to speak for you, had a different review had we only watched the first episode. You know what I mean?
It's possible, yes, because I was wondering what they might go with in the next episode as well, and we got to see some of that. So,
I might have actually been, and I'll immediately say feeling it. I mean, I did really enjoy this, but I'm gonna say, I think I might have been weirdly slightly more positive had we only reviewed the first episode. Because there's things moving forward that if we continue, I'm not real happy with, that I wouldn't have had if we'd only watched one. But anyway, why don't you go ahead and tell us how you felt about the first couple of episodes of Muppets Now, Brandon.
It started out when we had this new format, and at first I was like, oh, are we doing this? I couldn't tell if we were trying to go for a social distance type of thing, or if we were just trying to go for, this is how people post content now.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it was more along the lines of, this is how people post content now, which I liked better than trying to do the social distance thing, because I feel like, as we just talked about, the last time the Muppets tried to really embrace what was happening in the zeitgeist, what was going on, they tried to embrace the type of show format. It didn't work. So I was worried that that's exactly what we're going to have here. But since you see people on screen together, not social distancing, it was not about that. It was about the other thing. So I enjoyed the...
Yeah, I wasn't sure when the stuff was shot. This seems like a thing that would be pretty easy to make, during quarantine, and while people are, having to social distance and make things remotely. And I had the same question you did at the very beginning, because it's like Scooter's in a room by himself
talking to Kermit,
and he's talking to everybody over Skype or Zoom or whatever. And I was like, was this show made last Thursday? I just wasn't sure. And it might have been. It would be very easy to make a thing like this that way. The fact that you did have some people on screen really close together doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't kind of doing that. Maybe certain segments were shot before we got to quarantine, because this is a show that I think would, just like animated stuff, would be pretty easy to keep on.
Sure. I appreciated the different segments that we had that highlighted the different things, the the different characters bring to the table. We did have, in these 2 episodes, we had a couple of guest stars that appeared for different segments. It wasn't the same type of segment that had a guest star in it. They were different segments that had, different types of guest stars for those roles.
You didn't have one guest star for a whole episode.
Right.
There's not really anything that holds an entire episode together.
They could be pieced together and pieced together.
Yeah, and there will be callbacks to things here and there, but you can also do that episode to episode really easily, right. And we're also doing that. The only thing that holds it together again is Scooter, and the second episode is he is having to deal with Fozzie, who just won't leave him alone about show ideas, and that's the only thing that holds the whole thing together, and it doesn't have anything to do with any individual segments even. It's not like Fozzie comes in and goes, hey, you did this segment just now, how come you won't take a thing that I just suggested that's like it? There's nothing there's no connective tissue really.
Right. So another thing, we had a segment with the Swedish chef who's doing a cooking show now, and I was interested by the fact that they broached the Swedish chef so quickly right now anyway, just because I appreciate the joke that is a Swedish chef, and it's never bothered me, from certain aspects. But I see how there could be out there in the world today people who might actually shy away from this character now, just because of the way people are about, stereotypes and types of imitations and things like that. It's never bothered me, and I don't mind it. But I could see a place where some people could get.
I don't want to get too deep into this, but I will say a couple things about that, because I'm not surprised by it at all. I don't think you're right about it. I see why you're saying that.
Right.
Okay. I'll start with this. It's not an ethnic stereotype though. So it's a lot easier to get away with that kind of thing, where you can make fun of German people, you can make fun of Swedish people. You're a lot less likely to get people up in arms and freaked out and angry with you when you just make fun of, not to put too fine a point on it, other white people in Europe. You see what I'm saying? It's not an ethnic stereotype.
That's true.
Having said that, this doesn't seem, and the Muppets never really has been, especially when it's at its best, it doesn't seem especially concerned with that kind of thing, and isn't, it's obviously not attempting to be offensive, but it's also not a politically correct show.
Right.
So I do appreciate that, but I'm just saying, I don't want to applaud them too hard for oh man, you're taking the risk of doing a Swedish stereotype, because at least it's not ethnic.
No, and I'm totally with you on that point. I wasn't sure how something like the Muppets would approach that, and I find it interesting.
But it hasn't been that long ago since we did Muppet stuff, and we've always brought him back in.
We have, just things changed so drastically within the last couple of years, in between the last time. So I appreciated the fact, that they're not shying away from anything, personally.
I mean, they're not shying away from that. I don't know. I mean, okay, I'm with you. I'm not immediately thinking of anything they used to do that they're we're not doing that now.
Right.
So, okay, but, yeah.
But other than that, I am also feeling it, by the way. This actually, like I said, when we first got into the beginning of the first episode, I was like, oh, what are we doing? Are we doing this? Are we doing this? But then it turned into this, okay, this format actually seems to work so far. And then we did the format again for the second episode, and it still was holding for me, So there wasn't too much that I'd say. I appreciated.
Oh, you know what? I will disagree with you on one thing.
What's that?
With what we were talking about a second ago.
Yes.
We don't do jokes about Miss Piggy's weight anymore.
We did not. We did not do that.
We make fun of the fact that she's a pig. We don't make fun of her weight anymore.
We're still making fun of her fashion sense, but that's generic,
Yes.
So, that's something you can get away with. But
maybe there is a tinge of political correctness there.
There might be. There might be.
Anyway.
But
however you feel about that, I'm just making a statement of fact. I think that is a place where they are shying away from things they used to do.
Well, we'll keep an eye on
however
that.
you feel about that.
We'll keep an eye on that. But there wasn't too much that I necessarily disliked. There wasn't. I can't point to anything specifically that I disliked. I appreciated we got some of the newer characters.
Yeah.
Like Walter. and I can't remember the other guy's
and that
names.
bad guy Muppet from the Muppets from that movie with the scraggly things coming out of his face.
Yes,
that guy. I think that was the first place we saw him. Was it not? Was he made up for that movie? I think he was.
I think so. But also, yeah, it's. I appreciated the kind of the way the direction this seems to be going. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of it and hoping that if it stays good or gets better, that it can stick around for a while.
I would imagine that as long as the people making this want to make it, Disney Plus will allow them to keep it on, unless the numbers are just really, really in the floor, because it can't be expensive to make. They don't have any like big lavish sets. It's not like the Muppet Show where there are like big standing sets where all these Muppets have to get together. You notice there's not any place where we see more than like 10 on screen, and like we used to do, and that may happen later on. And actually, I don't even know if we ever have even that many. I mean, like it's kind of 5 or 6 is about the most you see very often at once. And like much bigger, grander Muppet projects, you'll see sometimes scenes with like a bazillion Muppets at once, and they may eventually do that kind of thing. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying the show looks cheap or that it's like horribly cutting corners. Like the production values for the thing that they're making are good, but they're making YouTube videos that they're streaming that they're streaming together
like content
and throwing
that
you find on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they've captured that moment well for this.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that it has the potential to stay good or get better as they kind of even find more of their footing. Now the production.
But I'm saying if they need original content on Disney Plus, this is a very inexpensive way to get
exactly. Now, one set that they did have that was kind of above the rest of them was the set for the cooking show, which I dug.
Sure,
that
but again,
fun.
it's like a YouTube set.
Exactly, and so it worked. And
somebody remodels their kitchen and then turns it into a set for a YouTube show. Like,
but you did make an interesting point, though. I wonder what kind of interplay we're going to get with some of these other characters that we usually see. Mixing and doing things that we didn't see here. Now there wasn't. I don't want to give too much away, but there was a point where Kermit is interviewing somebody, and Gonzo comes in. A couple other people. They're interrupting. Muppets interrupt Muppets all the time, and this is how they do. But Kermit starts to get a little frustrated. As he does, but that was some nice interplay, seeing a few Muppets, maybe not all together at the same time, but you saw a few of them. Well, and they did come together at the very end, there was a bunch of Muppets on screen. But, like, that was the only indication I got of anything where we do more than, like, a few in frame at once.
Yeah. But I don't know, I think this would be a pretty easy thing to keep on. I'll be surprised if Disney Plus stays popular and relevant. I'll be surprised if it's not on for at least 3 or 4 years.
I'm cool with it.
So a couple questions for you. First of all, what did you think was the funniest segment of the 2 episodes?
Oh gosh,
the both of us did laugh quite a bit.
Yes,
and I will even say I don't think there was even one segment where we never laughed. I think there was at least a laugh in every segment.
I think you're right about that too.
I mean, it's a comedy, and it's a laugh-a-minute comedy, so that's kind of your litmus test. Like, were we laughing?
And we were.
And we were.
Okay, so there were a couple of moments in... I think the... Lifestyle with Miss Piggy, that graphic was hilarious to me.
Yeah, the graphic's funny.
When it showed up, and it's instead of lifestyle, it says lifestyle... I was like, okay, that is a great joke for her. And then she makes note of it, like, it's supposed to be lifestyle.
Right.
And I was just like, that was the funniest moment for me so far, I think.
But what was the funniest overall segment? Because I'd be surprised if you said that was the funniest segment.
No.
And it overstayed its welcome for me. Like, second time with that, it was a lot of kind of repeat. It's kind of the same joke. It's like, I get the shtick, I get the formula that you're making fun of on YouTube, where you get kind of like celebrity creators that are making stuff that's kind of superficial and doesn't have a lot of creativity or like real solid content. There's not much substance to it. So it was making fun of that kind of thing.
I felt that it should not have showed up in the second episode.
I didn't need it twice in a row.
But I also felt like the cooking show didn't need to. It should have been maybe one or the other, and maybe they oscillate type of thing.
Yeah, as opposed. I'm with you, because as short as it is, like 24 minutes, and the segments tend to be 4 to 5 minutes long each, maybe 3.5. But I mean, like, they're not short,
right?
And also, maybe more of a variety of length of segments would be good.
Yes, because not every show is going to be the same length of time.
It might be nice to get more like minute and a half segments where you jump in and you get back out. The Muppet Show did that really well, where you'd occasionally have something just really fast and lickety split. I'm thinking of like those segments where they had like the dancers at a ball or at a dance studio or whatever it was, and they would just like look at the camera and make a stupid pun, and then jump to it. Do you remember that? And then jump to the next dancers and they make a stupid pun. I need something like that in this show. Where like it just gets in and gets out. But anyway, but what did you think was actually the funniest overall segment?
The funniest overall segment, I think, was Pepe's game show.
That's up there for me.
Yeah, it was. It just kept jumping around, and he kept coming up with stuff on the fly, and I'm like, okay. And it was just much to Scooter's chagrin, right? Because Scooter's trying to run this thing, and Pepe's just throwing the script out the window. And Scooter's like, that's not approved. We've already, got this. The censors have already approved this. And Pepe's like, I don't care. We're doing it anyway.
That's a character that I've always seen as kind of throwaway and is never on the screen very long. So like, I think intellectually I get what that character is and why he's supposed to be funny, but he's never been on screen long enough for me to like think about him and to like really articulate any of that. And so getting a whole like 5-minute game show segment with him, I kept finding myself thinking like, oh wow, you guys are like really nailing this character that I never really thought about and cared about before, but like it felt at the same time super authentic. Yeah, exactly. He's got a whole thing. We won't reveal all the great jokes, but that was one of the places where I laughed the hardest, because there is like a Middle Eastern guy whose name is Artoon, and he keeps calling him cartoons. Yeah. And I could, and they ran that joke into the ground, but I didn't care. It was so funny.
No, it was, and then
Gonzo, did you invent cartoons?
Yeah, that was funny. And then Gonzo's like, is that your real name, Cartoon? He's like, no, it's Artoon. Like, okay, yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, I think it's hard to say. That's up there for me. I also laughed really hard at the Kermit Photobomb segment.
Oh, okay. All right.
That got me.
You're right.
That was in the first one, where they do this sort of like almost like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous sort of thing, and it's like here's a celebrity that you know, but here's a thing that you didn't know about them, and it turns out that
Muppet Masters.
That's what it is. Muppet Masters, and it was like, did you know that Kermit is this great photographer? And then they spent like 2 minutes giving you a tutorial on photography while Kermit's in the background going, I don't know anything about this.
He's trying to tell Walter, like, that this isn't right. Like, I'm not a photographer.
Right. He's like, I don't know anything about this. And then it turns out that his whole thing is photobombing, and he somehow has the superpower where he'll show up in a picture even though you can't possibly have enough time to get there. And that cracked me up. That was really funny.
So the way they reveal that he's not a photographer, but how did he pronounce it?
A photographer? Because it's photobomb.
Photographer, or something like that.
It was great.
As soon as he said it, I'm like, oh my goodness! Like that was seriously hilarious.
Yeah, it was really funny. And also the second...
we were laughing the hardest during that segment.
The second cooking show segment in the second episode was also way up there for me, with Danny Trejo.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That cracked me up,
that was pretty funny, the mustache thing.
And so, I mean, I'm with you. I didn't need that segment twice, but the difference between that and the Miss Piggy one for me is the first one wasn't that funny, and the second one was really funny.
Yes.
So it was kind of a flipped thing.
Right.
But anyway, like I said a minute ago, I'm also feeling it. I'll throw up... I'll throw out a couple of criticisms real quick. First of all, I don't love Matt Vogel's Kermit the Frog voice. I've never thought he sounds close enough. And it's weird because it's almost like he gets all of the nuances of the voice right, but in like the wrong register. So it's like he sounds exactly like Kermit the Frog. If only you could pitch him up like a third. His voice is too low, and that takes me out real hard, especially because like everybody else sounds spot on right now, and I'm not going through and figuring out like who's voicing everybody, and I just remember that Vogel's been doing it for a while, but like. And he's been working with Muppets for years, but he just took over Kermit like 3 years ago, I think. And so like there's probably some voices that have been there for a really long time, and so I've been used to their voices for a long time. But although there are places where Miss Piggy, and I don't think it is the same voice, but there are places where current Miss Piggy sounds almost too much like Elmo to me. But I had that early, and then the more she was on screen, the less I was thinking that. But like Gonzo is spot on right now. Scooter is close enough. Like Fozzie is nearly spot on.
Right.
But like Kermit's the most important Muppet, and he's the one that least sounds like himself right now.
I can understand.
That's kind of rough. Like I said, formatting wise, I just don't want to repeat too many segments too often. I'm with you. I think you maybe have one that you do like that you rotate out like each episode. You might see one that you've seen before, but all the other ones are new, or not necessarily new, because the longer you go, you're going to expect to start seeing more segments again. But I think the rule of thumb should be from the previous episode, you don't have more than one.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Don't you think?
Here's the thing, though, about that, is there are so many Muppets.
Yeah.
This being a Muppet show, you're going to want to see new segments from other Muppet.
A pattern make,
right.
But watching just two,
we've seen too many of the.
But what I was going to say, watching just two, it feels like there are certain Muppets that the guys currently working on Muppet, the guys making this show, are really really into, and other ones they don't care about as much.
Sure.
You're two in, and you haven't done. Well, I almost said you haven't done anything with Electric Mayhem. You actually did have one appearance of one character.
Janice.
Yeah, she does show up. That's true. But like, you haven't seen Animal yet?
You haven't seen Animal, you haven't seen Ralph.
You haven't seen Ralph yet? You haven't seen Statler and Waldorf?
Right, and this was leading me to
and
my
I know they're
going to
show up eventually, but the thing is, they were like the predominant thing holding together the YouTube videos they made years ago before you got to the Muppets movie. And they're nowhere to be seen in their first two episodes that are YouTube video shows?
You'd think you'd have something where they do some sort of cut to Waldorf and Statler and Waldorf. Yeah. I always want to call him Waldorf and Astoria, which I know is wrong, but Statler and Waldorf.
I just said it like 30
No, I know you
ago.
did, but it, like my brain always goes. Anyway, you'd want to see something. I think they could work in somehow. You get them to be there to have some sort of comic relief.
And I don't mean it has to be every episode, but on the other hand, like, and I also don't need it to be the Muppet Show, but there are things like that from that show that I think could serve this pretty well. Like I don't know, maybe it would be a good idea for them to pop up every show, but I don't want to rewrite what they're making.
What if Statler and Waldorf end up doing some sort of like react type videos to other Muppet videos? That's
great. No, that's
right?
Great.
That would be the way to do that.
Yeah,
right?
And what would be really that's awesome. And you might have predicted a thing that I could totally see that happening.
I can see that happening too.
It might be really funny if they brought back a whole segment you've seen already, and then watch them react to it.
Oh my goodness,
that's actually a really funny idea.
So I'm making that prediction.
I hope they do. I actually kind of hope they do something like that. Yeah, react videos, great.
Yeah, because they're the guys to do that. But I'm
sure they'll do something with them where like they're trying to figure out how to bring it up on their phones, and they just give up. Right? They'll do something like that.
They're like, let's watch it on this screen instead.
Yeah, or screw it. Like we'll just we'll just watch reruns of the Muppet Show on TV because it sucked, but compared to this, it's great, right? They do something like that. So here's my biggest issue with this show. It doesn't need to be on Disney Plus or 24 minutes long. They were already making stuff like this, like I alluded to earlier. Years ago, before the Muppets movie got made, and they've done a few segments here and there. After that, videos that did really well on YouTube, some things that went viral. They had the Muppets singing why am I blanking on the big Queen anthem?
Bohemian
Rhapsody, yeah, and like that made rounds and was really big for a minute. Why isn't this just a YouTube channel? Why aren't we just uploading the segments?
I know, right? It totally could be.
And so like what we've got is fun. I'm enjoying it, but like I don't know why I need to sit down for 24 minutes and watch all of these segments separately. There's not enough of a connective tissue that. And we're in a really awkward place in entertainment right now. And this show is speaking to that, but I don't think that's... I don't want to give it too much credit. I don't think that that's because it's a parody of that and like having fun with satirizing the awkwardness of that. I think it also cannot decide if it wants to be web material or television material, because it's such a blurred line now, right?
The weird thing, yes, and the weird thing about it is, and the one criticism I'll give it is, I didn't care for the the interaction of like seeing Kermit having a meeting with Scooter to upload these things.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Didn't need that. It doesn't need that framework, but we got that framework.
And nothing in that framework, there's never a joke in that I can't live without. At least so far, 2 episodes
But also,
in.
you wouldn't see that anyway, so to have that being like recorded and then be the frame for the uploading of the segments and the videos, it just seemed awkward and clunky.
Yeah, it's a little contrived, right? It's like... Yeah. And I'll go as far as to say that some of these segments I think would be funnier in a vacuum. I think would actually be funnier
without a setup
if you saw them like get uploaded to YouTube and you sat down and didn't know what you were getting yourself into, and it just hit you and you just watch it for 5 minutes instead of getting kind of like acclimated to the shtick is I'm watching YouTube videos. Like this should just be YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that while I'm also saying that this is the kind of thing I want from the Muppets. Like, I don't know how you do the variety show thing now and it not just be throwback. Like, I get that the Muppets wants to do, again, what they've always done, where they're satirizing kind of what's happening at the moment. And
why it's called Muppets Now.
Exactly, because that is what the Muppet Show was.
Yeah.
It's easy to kind of forget that, but like when you go back, when it started anyway, the variety shows were all the rage. And if you come back and you just do another variety show, it's like, okay, well that's 40, 50 years ago now. Like we don't make those anymore. So what do? Well, you just post separate YouTube. This is the reason that Weird Al's not making albums anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's all about the like shorter, clipped stuff, and like however you feel about that. And it's not like there's not room for longer things too. Like it's not just all about attention span.
But you want to make it to market faster to kind of reverb what's going on.
Well, that's why Weird Al said he was doing that, and of course he said that, and then he hasn't really he hasn't really made very much.
That's true.
But I don't think the issue is with this is that so much. I don't, because even a whole set of segments with this would be pretty easy to get knocked out in a couple of weeks and get uploaded or get put on Disney Plus. That's not the point I'm making. What I'm saying is the only reason that it needs to be 24 minutes is because we're using an outdated for the thing we're making format to make it a half-an-hour TV show. And what's weird about that is that it's on the same platform that gave us Forky Asks a Question, which is 3-minute shorts that are basically YouTube videos.
Yeah. That
for whatever reason, side note, Disney Plus, and I adore the Forky shorts, by the way, a lot of them, they're really funny. But What No is one of the funniest things to happen in a few years, I think. But with Forky Asks a Question, you have instead of posting it like a show where you look at a season and you go in and you click on the episode you want, they're posted like they're all separate entities, which is really strange. And then we get this that almost warrants that more. I mean, I still would want it to be like a collection, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't put it on, I mean, I guess it could go on Disney. If Disney Plus can get away with Forky, why can't it get away with just uploading all these separately? That's what I don't get about it.
Of course they can get away with anything they want to do. First of all, it's Disney. Like, But like, yeah, why can't they just buck that?
But I just mean
format?
like consistency clearly is not key, and with this platform, and I respect that. I like the idea that they can put up 3-minute things and hour-long shows and 2-hour movies. Like,
right.
That's fine with me. And like, again, the lines are so blurred now that like, what is a movie? What is a television show? What is web video now? What is professional? What is independent? Like
right.
you know, made in your basement. Like everything is so blurred now. You have professional stuff made for Disney that is intentionally trying to look like stuff that guys like me make in my basement because that's what's popular now.
You remember when I made that point on one of our shows a couple of months ago? I said, you know, amateur is professional now.
Yeah.
You know, professional can be amateur. You know, it's just...
professional needs to look amateur now to survive in certain cases.
So that's kind of even weirder.
It's really interesting.
Weirder, you know, branch of the tree. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just to illustrate my point, the segment which I thought was really funny with Beaker and Honeydew, where there's an AI like Alexa version of Beaker. It's really funny. Who just occasionally like it's got that cold female Alexa voice, but it occasionally says meep.
It's
Beak-R, yeah. And it'll occasionally make that noise he makes. It's great. I think if that posts on YouTube, maybe even Disney Plus, but if that posts on YouTube by itself, it goes viral and is really popular.
Sure.
In a thing like this, it gets buried. You see what I'm saying? You put it with 6 other segments,
and it stays there,
and it gets kind of it gets kind of buried because some of the things. This is interesting too. I didn't expect this video to go this long, but I guess I have stuff to say. One of the issues here too is what we're parroting right now, or what we're parroting with the show is everything.
Yeah.
As far as what is popular in web video, right? Because most everybody, especially you know earlier than a certain age, is watching something on YouTube, and everybody has their niche and everybody has their interests, right? So if you watch a show like this that is making fun of everything, certain of those segments are going to resonate with you and the satire is going to be funny to you, and certain of them are going to either go over your head or you're going to go, I don't like watching those kinds of videos, so I don't even want to see them made fun of. Like, the piggy thing, some people are going to have that with that. We're like, yeah, okay, I get the joke. It's not funny because I don't like those things. And so the people who like science videos
are going to watch those.
Are going to love that Beaker one and won't care about anything else in that episode, potentially.
So you brought me around to something you said a little bit earlier, and I'll get to that in 2 seconds. But now you've pointed out to me that if these were posted individually, they'd get views based on the merit of the content and what you like
of the specific
rather than
segment.
You know, having them all together. You may not like the whole episode, you know, but you've watched it. Maybe that's going to turn some people off, maybe it'll turn some people on, I don't know. But like you said, no, you were absolutely right when you said that this is more like, you know, watching a compilation of clips that had previously been posted. You were absolutely right.
Well, that's exactly what it is, and that's what they want it to be. But like,
they should do that.
I also think you could have your cake and eat it too.
They should put out the individual
both
segments.
Yeah,
they really should, and they should.
And maybe
do
they
that
are. I've not looked. Perhaps after the fact they are doing. I don't think they are though.
And if they are after the fact, I think they should do it before the fact.
The only thing that would, that gets murky because, like, premiering things on Disney Plus, you know what I mean? Like, that's not going to happen, I wouldn't think.
That's true.
But, what gets, I'm sorry, I completely lost my train of thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's no big deal. But anyway, so, like, I'm liking what's there. I know what I was going to say. The thing that brings an audience to this right now, the way it's being advertised, the way it is on Disney Plus, is Muppets.
Yes.
And that's it. Because it's not real clear from the advertising exactly what you're getting yourself into. When I saw the previews for this show, I expected something a lot closer to Muppet Show or that last show they made where I thought it was going to be more about the behind the scenes. Like, we're making web video or whatever it is we're making. Like, I thought it was just generically they're making a Disney Plus show. And then Kermit's got to fight the censors in the background and stuff. Like, there's a whole trailer that's just him fighting with that new censor character. He's there for 30 seconds in one episode in this, and I thought that was like the show, or like a lot more of the show, and so I wasn't getting what I expected, and I liked this better than I might have liked that,
right.
But I came into this just because I like the Muppets.
Right.
And I think that if you put these up separately somewhere else, you could get people, or I guess depending on how you advertise it, even on Disney Plus, you could get people that don't otherwise care about the Muppets or even know about the Muppets to watch it because of the specific things that they're satirizing.
Yeah.
And that's what they ought to be doing.
So
my issue is entirely format.
Sure, and I can get behind that. I did want to ask you, though, a question from earlier that I had. So, being that we've only seen these particular certain segments so far,
yeah,
who that we haven't seen yet are you most wanting to make an appearance?
Animals.
Okay.
Animal, absolutely. Because I want to see, because if he has a regular segment, I want to see what it is. I want Animal to do drum tutorials.
That would be hilarious.
Some kind of music tutorial would be super fun.
Gotcha.
What is it for you? And Statler and Waldorf is a close second. But what is it for you?
Statler and Waldorf are a big one. I also want to see Rizzo the Rat.
Yeah.
I've always liked Rizzo.
And he was being pushed so hard when we were kids, when he was kind of new. Because I think he first shows up in Christmas Carol, if I'm not mistaken.
And that's where I was like, okay, this character is great. Yeah, because he's right there next to Gonzo, and they kind of got a rapport. And
I was really surprised not to see him right away.
They no like him over Pepe.
But I think that was an attempt at taking a more obscure character and finally doing something.
And I liked it. I'm not saying that, but I would have expected. Is what I'm saying.
I think that, and again, this is just based on 2 episodes. It's possible the next 2 we don't see him at all, but they seem obsessed with Gonzo to me. He just shows up everywhere. He's just there.
He did show up more than I think as much as Kermit did,
or more.
Yeah,
but at least as much as Kermit. Yeah, like they really like Gonzo. They're also really good at writing Gonzo. It makes a lot of sense that they're using him as much as they are, because I have seen Gonzo writing where I'm just like yeah, it's weird, but it's the wrong kind of weird. Like, he's completely authentic. He has the funniest line in those 2 episodes to me. There's this bit where he just shows up and starts rattling off weird random questions to a celebrity, and he says, I will give this away because it cracked me up, and maybe this will get somebody to watch it. He goes, if you were standing on a trap door on top of a pit of crocodiles, would you want to know it? And I just lost it. I thought that was hilarious.
Did you feel... I got the impression that we were dealing with a new puppet model for Gonzo.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't have that thought at all.
He looked just slightly different. Yes, to me. Okay. And I'm going to go back and review what he used to look like. Just because of that, I might be mistaken. I'm probably mistaken, but he just seemed a little too
the voice and the
gaunt.
writing are perfect.
Right. But his puppet seemed a little too gaunt for me.
I just had this thought too. With rights stuff, are the people making the Muppets allowed to use anything from Sesame Street anymore? That's just a thing I don't know. But I missed those kind of interactions where Kermit could show up at Sesame Street. Obviously, he's there very early. He starts there. Mm-hmm. He doesn't start there, but he's there before. But obviously he's there before Muppet Show. I'm pretty sure before Muppet Show. But then you've got occasionally like Cookie Monster would show up in a Muppet thing. I'd like to see that happening. But right now you have Sesame Street content on HBO, including a late night talk show for Elmo, which is surprisingly okay.
Interesting.
Or at least the pilot. I haven't watched past that, and I only looked at it out of morbid curiosity, and I don't like Elmo generally, and so I was like, I know I'm going to hate this, and I watched it, and I went, okay, it's pretty funny. Have I told you about this?
No.
That show is Elmo is getting ready for bed, and he tries to sneak in a talk show before his parents make him go to sleep. And so he's like, and so, you know, like 5 minutes before the show's over, or a couple minutes, like his parents are like, okay, Elmo, it's time to go to sleep. And he's like, I'm finishing my talk show. He's got to finish his talk show. It's adorable.
That's funny.
And there's, I don't remember the artist, but there's a current singer who I didn't know who came in and did a killer cover of Rubber Ducky. Just blew my mind, and I was like,
right.
oh my god, this is classy. Like, how is it so classy? But anyway, I digress. Because HBO has Sesame Street and they're doing that Elmo show, I'm going to assume that those two things do not cross anymore. But I'd like to see that. I kind of want Cookie Monster to show up in the show.
Sure.
You know, the Count, or, you know. But anyway, that's just an aside. I had that question.
Well, I mean, but how does Jim Henson Productions operate at that point?
I don't know.
So maybe they have a special, you know, like the way gas stations can sell both like Coke and Pepsi. Like maybe
that's not the same kind of thing though, because you're talking like that's pardon me, not a great analogy. Okay, because
I'm asking like if it's not, it's not. I don't know.
Well, because just because a studio is hired to make two things from opposing companies wouldn't mean that those companies would be able to use the thing the studio is making. You see what I'm saying? Like,
sure, that's true.
Like there may be a perfect separation now, completely between Sesame Street and Muppets, and maybe there has been for a really long time, and I just don't know it. Like those things, because it was PBS, you used to be able to cross them, but now that HBO has their hands on it, I don't know.
PBS being public domain.
That was just a thing I thought of in the moment. I was just kind of curious about. But anyway, we've gone on far too long. I enjoyed this immensely. This is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to more of them. I just want them to be separate YouTube videos that I can watch on a every 2 or 3 day basis. You know, just keep pumping them out. You know, put one out. Like let me watch it when I get up and I'm having my breakfast. Like that would be great.
I agree with that.
Well, anyway, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. If you have seen any of the new Muppet Show, leave your comments. Let us know what you thought of it. And we will talk to you again very shortly with more reviews, more live shows, etc., etc. I was Captain Logan.
And I was Brandon.
Later, folks.